Since childhood, I was betrothed to Shen Que, the son of the Grand Tutor. The world says he is cold and distant, yet he treats me with the utmost care. Married for 10 years, he helps manage the Princess Manor, dotes on and indulges me, and without hesitation cut his wrist to use his blood as medicine when I was gravely injured. Even my father, the Emperor, marvels at the depth of his love for me. It was not until I was on the brink of death that I discovered the jade hairpin he had hidden in a secret compartment of his study. Engraved upon it was not my name. I suddenly realized that in all these years, I had never heard him utter a single word of love. The first thing I did after being reborn was to beg my father the Emperor to annul our engagement and bestow a marriage upon him with the fourth daughter of the household of the Director of Music. Before the golden throne, his eyes reddened with rage, and he lost his temper at me for the first time. Your Highness, this subject does not need you to take matters into your own hands. Main text. While tidying up the study, I found a jade hairpin. The workmanship was crude. The carver was evidently a novice. The character Chan was engraved at the end of the hairpin. The strokes were strained and understated, much like Shen Ke's own self-discipline and introspection. This was not a gift he had prepared for me. A second before the painted boat sank, I was still wondering which lady in the capital had the character Chan in her name, what she looked like, and whether she was more refined and sensible than I. Dazzling sunlight streamed through the window lattice. I frowned and opened my eyes to see a familiar face. Your Highness has finally awakened. Bestow patted her chest. You truly frightened the servant to death just now. If General Pei had not happened to pass by and saved you from under the horse's hooves, how would the servant ever explain herself to Her Majesty the Queen? I stared blankly as she complained softly, then turned my gaze. In the bronze mirror was reflected the face of my 15-year-old self. Have I been reborn? Hurried footsteps came from outside the hall. The beaded curtain was lifted, and a tall, straight figure walked in. Are you feeling unwell anywhere? Shen Que stood 3 paces away from the bed and handed the steaming medicine cup in his hand to Bestow. His features were picturesque, yet he always carried a hint of aloofness, overlapping with the image of that silent prince consort in my memory. Memories came flooding back like the tide. I remembered now. On this day, provoked by the 6th princess, I competed in horse riding, but fell from the horse and fainted in fright. In my previous life, Shen Que was punished by the Grand Tutor to kneel in the ancestral hall for half a month because he failed to protect me. Yet he never uttered a single word of complaint. Back then, I thought his affection for me ran deep. Now, in retrospect, he was merely putting on a show for my father. My mother passed away early, and I was frail and sickly from childhood. Since my father could not always attend to me, he wanted to find a steady companion to keep me company. Among all the young boys and girls, I picked Shen Que at first glance. All right, let him protect you from now on. The Emperor beckoned him to come forward. Seeing the tips of his ears turn red as he approached, my heartbeat couldn't help but quicken a little. From that day on, I had a little tail following behind me. The 6th princess had always been jealous of the Emperor's favoritism toward me, and she would often find fault with me. But she didn't dare scold me, so she could only scold Shen Que. They said he was my gigolo, my child groomed to be, a dog that would only wag its tail at my command. Every time I would defend Shen Que and argue with her, but alas, I was clumsy with words and could never win. Later at the double 9th palace banquet, I beseeched my emperor father to bestow a marriage upon Shen Que, proving to everyone that he was not the dog I raised, but my future prince consort. As he knelt to accept the decree, Shen Que lowered his eyelashes and pressed his lips together, saying nothing. I thought he was just shy. Only now do I understand that it was clearly resistance. The Imperial Academy. I leaned over the desk, lost in thought, the scenes of my past life flashing before my eyes like a revolving lantern. I no longer want to bring ruin upon Shen Que. If he had not begged the Emperor for a marriage edict back then, he would have taken the imperial examinations, entered the Hanlin Academy, and step by step succeeded his father, the Grand Tutor, rising rapidly to high office. Rather than being trapped in the Princess Manor, despondent and unfulfilled for the rest of his life, he would have achieved fame and success. And afterward, I would not have died. The tutor was explaining the subtle meanings of the asterisk spring and autumn annals star. Shen Que had already finished studying and was absorbed in reading the asterisk corrections on policy essays asterisk in his hands. It was time for dismissal at noon, and I leisurely packed my things. Shen Que sat beside me waiting, cold and indifferent. Aside from books, he seemed uninterested in anything. With only the two of us left in the room, I suddenly spoke. Shen Que, go back. From now on, you need not follow me anymore, nor do you need to be my study companion. Why does your highness say this? The autumn imperial examination is approaching. Didn't you want to participate? I clenched my hands inside my sleeves and smiled with an air of ease. Go. With your abilities, you will surely place at the top of the list. Shen Que, I am setting you free. Without waiting for his answer, I gathered my things, stood up, and left, walking back to the palace with bestow, who was waiting outside. Behind me, hurried footsteps sounded. He had actually caught up. Is your highness angry with me? It was my fault yesterday. I shouldn't have left your highness alone at the riding grounds. I will go to his majesty to apologize shortly. The midday sun shone upon him, bright and radiant. His gaze was composed, as if saying, you need not test me. I explained earnestly, no, it has nothing to do with what happened yesterday. I was too willful in the past. I never asked for your thoughts before asking Father Emperor to bestow the marriage. You are so intelligent, and it is too much of a grievance for you to be unable to enter officialdom because of me. Don't worry. I will ask His Majesty to rescind the edict. You just focus on preparing for the exam with peace of mind. Shen Que stood frozen in place, perhaps hearing me say such things for the first time. In my past life at this very moment, I was pestering him to take me out of the palace to release river lanterns, unaware that there was still an unfinished policy essay for the palace examination pressing down on his desk. Back then, I foolishly asked him if he would regret not being able to enter officialdom because he was a prince consort. He answered verbally that he had no regrets, but deep down he must have been full of regret. After all, he could recite the 5 classics at age 3 and compose essays at 7. Possessing such immense learning yet having no way to display it, it is painful just to think about. Shen Que did not follow any further. While breathing a sigh of relief, I could not help but feel dispirited. There were no classes at the academy this afternoon, so I slipped out of the palace to drown my sorrows and drink. Afraid Father Emperor would find out, I didn't dare bring bestow along. When I went to settle the bill, I discovered my money pouch was missing. I let out a long sigh, sat back down in frustration, and pondered how I could run up a tab without revealing my identity. Suddenly, the corner of the table was tapped twice, and a tall figure sat down opposite me. Princess? Who are you? You can't be serious. Your Highness? Are you really so heartless? The other person clutched their chest in sorrow. I saved you just yesterday, and today you've already forgotten me. I raised my eyes to study him earnestly. So it was the young General Pei Xian. In my previous life, he went to the frontier to garrison the year Shen Que and I married, and never returned to the capital. It stands to reason that I wouldn't recognize him. Thank you for your help yesterday, young General Pei. I gave him a slight nod. It was nothing. Pei Xian waved his hand. But your Highness, were you injured anywhere? I shake my head. For a moment, no one spoke, and the atmosphere grew somewhat awkward. Pei Xian gazed out the window at the deepening night, then hesitantly spoke. It is getting late. Why not let me escort your Highness back to the palace? I nodded hurriedly. The bill was taken care of, and I even got a free bodyguard thrown in. Why say no? Walking out of the tavern, I said I would pay him back for the wine tomorrow. No, Pei Xian seemed to think of something and suddenly changed his words. Fine. Tomorrow I will enter the palace to find His Highness. While we were speaking, the tavern servant led Pei Xian's horse over. The horse was pitch black all over, its saddle and harness adorned with gilt bronze ornaments, just as unrestrained and flamboyant as its owner. I took a few steps back without leaving a trace. Pei Xian noticed my subtle movement. Your Highness, wait here a moment. I'll go hail a carriage. Just as the carriage was about to reach the Meridian Gate, I poked my head out and told Pei Xian to stop right here. He looked back suspiciously. I explained in a low voice. I snuck out. He raised an eyebrow and pulled the reins tight. Getting down from the carriage, I was about to say goodbye to him. Frowning slightly, Pei Xian stared behind me and lowered his voice. It's over. It seems the fact that His Highness snuck out of the palace can't be kept hidden. Looking back, I saw Shen Que standing at the palace gate. The swaying palace lantern stretched his shadow long and thin. It's all right. You go back first. Pei Xian gave me a concerned look, then turned the carriage around and left, as if wanting to say something but stopping himself. On the way back to the palace, Shen Que followed silently behind me, giving me an inexplicable sense of oppression. As he entered the Crimson Mist Palace, he suddenly spoke. Is Your Highness breaking off the engagement with me because of him? No. This is only the second time I've met him. Have you been drinking? He leaned in close. I parted my lips, preparing to explain. He pulled away indifferently, turned his head, and left. I stood there, staring blankly at his receding back. Your Highness has returned. Bestow stepped forward to greet me. I came back to my senses and walked inside in silence. Shen Que has an inner chamber in the side hall of Fian Palace. Sometimes when I do not wish for him to leave the palace, he stays there. Remembering the knife wound on his hand that had not yet healed, I changed direction and walked toward his room. As expected, I found that jade hairpin. He hides things only in the secret compartments of his desk or bookshelf, so they are easy to find. I rubbed the character Chan at the end of the hairpin, racking my brains but unable to recall which noble lady's name it was. Could it be some little palace maid or servant girl? With that keep-away demeanor of his, he'd probably scare her off before he even started chasing her. I have to help him. The next day, I woke up feeling dizzy and did not go to the academy. When Father Emperor heard I was ill, he came to see me after the morning court session. When he asked about the cause, I naturally dared not say it was because of drinking, so I vaguely said I might have caught a cold. He summoned the imperial physician to take my pulse and prescribe medicine, and after watching me take the medicine, he left. Bing Tao found out the news. There is indeed a woman named Jiang Chan in the capital, the concubine-born daughter of the director of music's household, a Liang, a minor official of the 8th rank, and born of a concubine. No wonder I don't know her. But how does Shen Que know her? I couldn't figure it out. Toward the end of the hour of C, Pei Xian came to see me. I asked Bestow to return the money for the wine to him. He took it, and when Bestow mentioned that the swing in the courtyard was broken, he didn't say a word, just rolled up his sleeves and set to fixing it. Watching his serious expression, I couldn't help but tease. Bestow, remember to pay little General Pei his wages later. Pei Xian shot me a sidelong glance. Just then, a palace maid came to report. Young Master Shen requests an audience. Shen Que used to come to my palace without needing announcement, but now that everything has been said, I took back all his privileges last night. Arriving at the palace gate, Shen Que stood tall and graceful, holding the honeyed pastries he had bought from Hele Tower. I heard Your Highness is ill? It's nothing serious. Oh. He handed the food box to me. Thank you. Since you are no longer my study companion, there is no need to do these things to look after me in the future. Shen Que remained silent for a moment, looked at me in confusion, and sighed softly. Have I done something wrong to displease Your Highness? Now I am not even allowed to enter the gates of Fian Palace. It is not your fault. I have just realized some things. I explained calmly. Since there is no longer any connection between us, we should avoid suspicion like ordinary men and women. After saying that, I turned and returned to the palace, but suddenly remembered something. I looked back and said earnestly, by the way, I will have someone send the things you left in Fian Palace back to your residence. Do not come here in the future. Shen Que, I'm waiting to see you ride a horse through the streets. His brows were tightly knit, seemingly puzzled as to why I suddenly said such words. Back in the courtyard, Pei Xian had already repaired the swing and was sitting on a stone bench drinking water. What is this? Something good to eat? He glanced at the food box I placed on the table. If you want to eat it, just have a taste. He lifted the lid, saw the preserved pastries inside, and curled his lip. I don't like sweets. He doesn't like them, but I do. Taking a piece of pastry from the food box, I ate it in small bites. It's been half a month since I last had a taste. Unable to hold back, I gobbled down 2 extra pieces in one go. Pei Xian leaned on the table, looking at me with a serious expression. I felt a hint of something odd. You're still not leaving? Huh? Oh, right. I'm leaving. I'm leaving right now. He stood up. I accompanied him to the door to see him out. Just as we reached the palace gate, a cold voice rang out. Is this what your highness calls avoiding suspicion? I looked up and met Shen Ke's cold gaze, feeling an inexplicable sense of embarrassment, as if I had been caught in the act of adultery. No, he and I are merely familiar strangers now. Also, what is he doing squatting at the entrance of Fian Palace? Pei Xian sensed that the atmosphere was off and turned back. I forgot something. Shen Ke's expression darkened a few shades more. It's not what you think. General Pei came to see me today to discuss important matters. He and I hurriedly explained. Shen Ke impatiently interrupted. Your Highness need not say more. If your heart has changed, just tell me plainly. There is no need to find so many high-sounding excuses. His tone was indifferent, and he turned and left immediately, his hurried back faintly appearing somewhat angry. This scene felt familiar. It turned out he had left without saying goodbye last night because he was angry. Pei Xian, seeing him leave, poked his head out. Should I go find young Master Shen to explain? No need. Did you two have a fight? Because of me? No. I felt a bit weary. Aren't you leaving yet? I'm going. Leaving right now. Pei Xian took a few steps, then turned back. Your Highness, I don't want any rift to grow between you and young Master Shen because of me. It really has nothing to do with you. All right. If you ever need me in the future, Your Highness, just send someone to fetch me. On the 3rd day of the 7th month, the family of the Vice Minister of the Court of Imperial Sacrifices held a birthday banquet. Normally, I would not attend banquets for officials below the 4th rank, but thinking of Jiang Chan, I went this time. Official Lin brought Madame Lin to the manor gate to welcome me and ushered me to the seat of honor. I politely declined. Today, Madame Lin is the birthday celebrant. How could I possibly take the seat of honor? At the banquet, I scanned the room and found Jiang Chan in the seat at the far edge. She wore a green long skirt, with several silver hairpins slanted in her bun. Her features could be described as delicate and pretty. I walked slowly toward her. Suddenly, a commotion arose at the entrance. To my surprise, Shen Que had actually come as well. Madame Lin asked, "Shall I call young Master Shen over?" "No need. Don't tell him I'm here." "All right." Though Madame Lin was suspicious, she didn't ask further. Fortunately, at today's banquet, the male and female guests were seated separately, so it wouldn't be hard to keep it a secret. Shen Que had always hated a noisy atmosphere. Aside from accompanying me, he rarely attended banquets. Now, however, he was willing to humble himself just to see his beloved. It turned out that I was never an exception in his eyes. The green plum juice I had just drunk spread through my heart, bitter and tart. I suppressed the urge and sat down beside Jiang Chan. "Miss Jiang, who are you?" Before entering the residence, I had spoken with Madame Lin. Not wishing to reveal my identity, I was attending the banquet as a relative of the Lin family. "I am Shen Ke's friend." "Oh." She blinked, accepting whatever she was told. "So you are Brother Shen's friend." "Hello." Their relationship was indeed unusual. After exchanging names, I went straight to the point. "Shen Que asked me to give this to you." I took out a long, rectangular box made of rosewood. I had selected it carefully from the storeroom. How could one give a gift without wrapping it? Especially something like a love token. Jiang Chan took it, the smile at the corner of her lips exceptionally bright. I had no interest in what followed, so while she was absorbed in unwrapping the gift, I got up and left. When one feels down, it turns out even the wind tastes bitter. Is your highness leaving? Madame Lin came to see me off. Please forgive any lack of hospitality today. I hope your highness will not take offense. No, I had a very enjoyable time. After saying this, I forced a faint smile. Having successfully helped Shen Que deliver the love token, the weight that had been hanging over my heart for days finally lifted. What exactly was on Shen Ke's mind when he carved that jade hairpin? Anxiety, anticipation, or perhaps the unique burning passion and bashfulness of youth? To be honest, I quite envy Jiang Chan. I still remember that year, when I summoned the courage to confess my feelings to Shen Quebec. At that time, he stood beneath the sky filled with fireworks, his face flickering between light and shadow. After hearing me out, he lowered his eyes indifferently. His voice was cool and distant, as if my adoration were just as annoying as the ceaseless sound of fireworks. Pei Xian had recently sent over many small trinkets, saying he was apologizing because Shen Que had misunderstood me on his account. At first, I found him annoying and told him not to send any more. But later, I happened to flip through a storybook tucked among them, and it was as if a door to a new world had opened. I read storybooks daily to the point of forgetting to eat and sleep. One of them was unfinished, and I even sent messages every day urging Pei Xian to find the rest of the story. On this day, I had just opened a new storybook. Shen Que barged into Fian Palace, disregarding the palace maid's attempts to stop him, his face dark. This was the first time he had broken the rules. Your Highness. The little palace maid knelt down, pleading guilty for failing to stop him. I waved my hand, dismissing her. Speak. Shen Que pursed his lips. Did your highness give away something of mine to someone else? He didn't specify, but I knew exactly what he meant. Anyway, you don't dare to send it, so I'll help you. Although I said that, I couldn't help feeling a bit guilty deep down. I thought I had successfully set him up with Jiang Chan, but seeing him like this now, I only just seemed to realize. Shen Que clenched his fists tightly. It was likely that the feelings he had hidden from me for so long had been exposed, and his expression looked awkward. I feigned indifference and said, although Miss Zhang's family background isn't great, she is a good person, gentle and virtuous. Since you have feelings for her, you should make your feelings known sooner. I've heard that she is having a hard time at the Jiang household, where the mistress makes things difficult for her. Lord Jiang even intends to betroth her to the fifth master of the Qin family as a concubine. If you don't want to regret it later, you'd better pick an auspicious day and come to propose marriage. My humble affairs need not concern your highness. He enunciated every word, the short sentence seemingly forced through clenched teeth. Fine, as long as you've taken it to heart. I called bestow and had her see the guest out. Shen Que let out a cold snort. Unwilling to budge. Does your highness detest me so much now? After finding a new love, you can't wait to push me off onto someone else. I suppose all those words of affection you once told me were nothing but lies to deceive me. I paused, surprised that he would actually question my feelings. Haven't you been deceiving me all along? I retorted stubbornly, using my status as a princess to pressure him for the first time. It is already an act of mercy that I have not punished you and instead granted your wish to be with Jiang Chan bestow. Summon Guard Lin to escort young Master Shen back to his residence. There is no need. He refused coldly, then knelt respectfully and bowed. This humble official kowtows to thank your highness for sparing my life. I bit my lower lip and turned my face away, trying hard not to look at him, to keep the tears from falling. Shen Que, I will never soften my heart toward you again in this lifetime. For more than half a month, Shen Que never sought me out again. Father Emperor thought we had quarreled and asked about it a couple of times. I went along with his assumption. After all, the time was not yet right to ask him to rescind the imperial edict bestowing the marriage. The person by my side became Pei Xian. He brought me pastries and helped me with the assignments assigned by Master Fu. Whenever I failed to recite a passage and was scolded by the tutor, he would hitch that black-hoofed dark horse to the carriage and take me out of the city to relax. My relationship with Pei Xian advanced by leaps and bounds. As the final drumbeat of the imperial examination sounded, I happened to be passing by the front of the examination hall. In the crowd, Jiang Chan stood shoulder to shoulder with Shen Que. She took water and pastries from the food box and spoke to him gently. Perhaps it was because the crowd was noisy and he couldn't hear clearly. Shen Que lowered his head and leaned toward her, looking like a perfect couple. I lowered the carriage curtain and urged Pei Xian to hurry up. Because the tutor was to serve as an examiner for the autumn imperial examinations, the Imperial University was on holiday, and recently Pei Xian and I had been playing wildly. We went to the Flower Lantern Festival, visited singing houses, and went for outings in the suburbs. We played outside almost all day. As long as we returned to the palace before the night curfew, His Majesty simply turned a blind eye and couldn't be bothered to restrain us. Things changed after the scientific expedition ended. Shen Que would always run into me in all sorts of places. When I chatted with Pei Xian, he would sit to the side, silent and unsmiling, like a solemn statue, and then urge me to return to the palace right on the dot. Whenever he saw Pei Xian acting as my groom, riding his horse alongside the carriage, he would inevitably make some snide remarks. On the 20th of the 8th month, I moved out of the imperial palace and held my 16th birthday banquet at the princess's residence. On my birthday, Father Emperor came to the manor for a brief stay before leaving behind several chests of gold, silver, and jewels. I selected a few jade pendants and bracelets as prizes for the pot-throwing game. Everyone, mindful that I was the birthday celebrant, indulged me and let me win. Pei Xian, however, had no sense of propriety. After several rounds, he stubbornly outdid me and took first place. I fumed and refused to speak to him. As the banquet dispersed, Pei Xian was the last to leave. Your Highness, please don't be angry. I'll give you everything I won tonight. Fei Ning, I simply didn't want anyone else to win your things away from you. The candlelight was too dim for me to see his expression clearly. Speaking as if drunk, I slurred, "You are my closest friend. Of course I wouldn't be angry with you." He lowered his eyelashes, concealing the desolation in his eyes. "It is good that your Highness is not angry." After Pei Xian left, I sat alone for a long time, my gaze clear and sober, with no trace of the drunkenness from moments before. The Pei family has been loyal and meritorious for generations, and in Pei Xian's generation, he is the only son. I can no longer bring ruin upon him. I couldn't help but lean back in the chair for a short rest. When I opened my eyes again, Shen Que was actually standing in front of me. He cast a resentful glance at me and said displeased, "Your health is already poor, yet you sleep here. Aren't you afraid of catching a cold? Where is bestow?" On the way back to the room, Shen Que lectured me incessantly. "Although your Highness has moved to the Princess's Manor, the rules must not be neglected, especially since it's a mixed bag outside the palace." I frowned slightly, feeling for the first time that his chatter was annoying. "So noisy. Can you just shut up?" Shen Que paused, his tone stiff. "I didn't mean to nag, but since His Majesty hasn't yet annulled our engagement, if anything happens to you, how am I to answer to His Majesty?" I stopped in my tracks. "Don't worry. After the results are released, I'll go find His Majesty to call off the engagement." "That's not what I meant." His whole body instantly tensed up. I gave him a puzzled glance. "Then what do you mean?" Shen Ke's expression dimmed, and he turned his face away, falling silent. I walked straight to the tea table upon entering the inner chamber. Shen Que lifted the teapot and poured a cup of warm water, pushing it before me, and asked in a muffled voice, "Your Highness, on your birthday, why didn't you invite me?" "I did invite you." Perhaps the servants didn't convey the message properly, but in truth, I hadn't invited him at all. I didn't want to spoil my mood on such a joyful day. Shen Que lowered his eyes and stood silently by the table. After a long while, he took an ebony brocade box from his sleeve and placed it on the table. "Fei Ning, happy birthday." I glanced at it but didn't take it, nor did I have any intention of opening it. He hesitated on the spot, as if 1,000 words were on his lips. Yet in the end he merely parted his lips, took his leave, and turned to walk away. In previous years, the birthday gifts Shen Que sent me were always expensive and exquisite ornaments, befitting the noble status of a princess. There are still quite a few piled up in the storeroom. Thus, I had long since held no expectations for anything he might give. I called for Bestow and told her to take the gift to the storeroom. As she picked up the box and turned around, she accidentally tripped over the carpet, and the contents inside fell out. Picking up the jade hairpin from the ground, I couldn't help but freeze. The craftsmanship of this jade hairpin was clearly much more exquisite than the one he gave Jiang Chan. It was pure and lustrous white throughout, with the characters Fei Ning engraved on the handle. Having lived 2 lives, it was a rare occasion to receive a gift made by Shen Que himself. Your Highness, do you still want to put this in storage? Yes. I handed the jade hairpin to Bestow. Remember to log it properly. This was a gift from Shen Quebec. On the day the results were posted, I specially had Bestow stand guard in front of the examination hall to watch the rankings. Shen Que passed with flying colors. As expected, ranking first in the first tier, awaiting only the palace examination to have his name inscribed on the golden list. As Bestow finished speaking, tears instantly gushed from my eyes, for him and for myself. When I stepped into the golden throne hall, Grand Tutor Shen and Shen Que were kneeling in the hall, while father sat on the throne, sternly reprimanding them. Shen Que, you should know that the consort of this dynasty is not permitted to enter the court. Father, I was the one who told Shen Que to take the imperial examination. Do not blame him. I hurriedly knelt down to plead for him. Fining. Father looked over helplessly. No matter how much I dote on you, the rules left by our ancestors cannot be discarded. I understand, so I have come today to specially request that Father Emperor cancel my engagement to young Master Shen. You are not clamoring to marry him and no one else? I am not clamoring anymore. I explained sincerely. In the past, Fining was young and did not understand the feelings between men and women. Now I realize that my feelings for young Master Shen are no different from those for a brother. Moreover, young Master Shen is exceptionally talented and truly should not be buried. Nonsense. Father Emperor slammed the table in a rage. I trembled and kowtowed. I implore your majesty to rescind the order. After a long while, Father Emperor composed himself and turned to Shen Que. What are your thoughts? Grand Tutor Shen stepped forward, cupped his hands, and replied, Your humble servant respectfully obeys the decree. I have reviewed Shen Que's examination paper. Making him a prince consort would indeed be a waste of his talent. In that case, the marriage between you and Fining is cancelled. I obey the decree. Grand Tutor Shen dragged the dazed Shen Que to express his gratitude. In for a penny, in for a pound. I spoke up again to make a request. Father, the 4th daughter of the director of music's family, as soon as I began, I was ruthlessly interrupted by Shen Que. Your Majesty, this subject wishes to have a private word with the princess. Father was currently annoyed with me, and he granted permission without hesitation. Walking out of the Jinluan Hall, Shen Que asked angrily, Your Highness, were you just seeking an imperial edict to bestow a marriage upon Miss Jiang and me? Is that not good? With the imperial edict, Grand Tutor Shen will not be able to stop you from marrying Jiang Chan. In this world, who is more considerate than me? From breaking off an engagement to bestowing a marriage, a one-stop service to directly escort lovers into a happy and blissful life. Shen Que stared at me, his eyes blazing with anger. No, I do not need your Highness taking matters into your own hands regarding my affairs. Fine. I overstepped. I won't meddle in your business again. I brushed past him and stormed ahead. Shen Que caught up and grabbed my wrist, his voice slightly subdued. Fining. I've been meaning to tell you, I got that jade hairpin back. Oh, asking for a gift back after giving it away, is that really something to be proud of and show off? You still don't understand? He gripped my hand tightly. I frowned slightly. I don't understand, and I don't want to understand. Shen Que, stop pulling such a long face. Isn't entering officialdom and rising through the ranks exactly what you've always wanted? His face suddenly turned pale. I pulled my hand away from his and turned to leave. When the news of my broken engagement with Shen Que first spread, everyone speculated about what had happened between us. Especially when we appeared in the same place. Those present would always look on as if watching a show. Yet aside from exchanging greetings and a few words, Shen Que and I almost never spoke. There was no unexpected hair-pulling scene. Gradually, they began to feel bored and stopped paying attention to us. The following March, Shen Que ranked first in the palace examination and became the top scholar. When he set out from Qingdao Ward to parade through the streets, I was just telling Pei Xian to go down to the river and catch 2 fish to roast. As he took off his clothes, he complained, asking me to go into the river to catch fish in such freezing weather. Only you would dare. Why didn't you bring a fishing rod? I shrugged. Fine. He quickly caught several big fish and tossed them ashore, then climbed out of the water, changed into dry clothes, and sat by the fire to warm himself, gazing at the big fish on the wooden spit. I am equally jealous of anyone who is a good swimmer. It has been nearly a year since my rebirth, and only now have I adjusted my mindset enough to dare stand by the riverside. Yet I am not in a rush. There are still 9 years. Enough time for me to learn swimming and avoid the tragedy of my past life. In early July, news arrived from the border. General Pei had been poisoned by a spy and fallen into a coma. Pei Xian immediately entered the palace to volunteer for the expedition, and Father Emperor granted his request without surprise. On July 11th, I went outside the city to see him off. Pei Xian tucked the protective charm I gave him into his pocket and smiled with regret. What a pity. If I were leaving a bit later, I could have stayed to celebrate your birthday with you before I go. I bluntly took up the conversation. Indeed a pity. I'll be receiving 1 less gift this year. Is that all you think about? Otherwise? I won't leave you out. I've already prepared your gift in advance. The clarion call for the expedition sounded. Pei Xian gave me a deep look, vaulted onto his horse, and said, I'm leaving. Fining. Wait for me to come back. All right. After seeing Pei Xian off, I returned to the residence, where Bestow told me that Shen Que was waiting for me in the front hall. Just as I had expected, under Grand Tutor Shen's arrangement, he entered the Hanlin Academy and was kept quite busy every day. I hadn't seen him for nearly half a year, and meeting him now, I actually felt a complete sense of strangeness. Your Highness. He stumbled to his feet to pay his respects, nearly crashing into the 8 immortals table. I steadied him, catching a distinct smell of alcohol. What? Has Lord Shen had so much to drink that he's mistaken the Princess Manor for the Shen Manor? Not expecting a drunkard to have any proper business with me, I ordered Bestow to prepare a carriage, when he suddenly gripped my wrist. Fining. A few days ago Pei Xian told me something. What? He said you never had any feelings for him. And then? What does that have to do with you? Shen Que was stung by my cold attitude. He gave a sharp tug and pinned me against the desk. Then why didn't you tell me when I misunderstood you and him before? You didn't want me because your heart had changed. As he spoke, tears seemed to well up in his bloodshot eyes. I looked at him expressionlessly. It would be a lie to say my heart was unmoved. Yet I only found his current appearance ridiculous. Shen Que, I offered an explanation back then, but you insisted on not listening. I'm sorry. Shen Que was filled with regret, regretting that back in the Golden Throne Hall, for that tiny bit of pride and spite, he had agreed to the annulment of the engagement. He wiped the corner of his eye and summoned the courage to move a little closer to me. Fining. My heart belongs to you. Can we start over? I had fantasized about this confession countless times in my past life, yet I never imagined it would happen in a scene like this. Unfortunately, it was too late. I cannot. Why? He asked eagerly, gripping my shoulder uneasily. Is it because of that jade hairpin? I was young and ignorant then. I couldn't distinguish between adoration and appreciation. I didn't have feelings for Jiang Chan. I simply admired her unyielding spirit in the face of adversity. Oh. But you did indeed resent me earlier for hindering your entry into officialdom. Although he concealed it well, I could sense it. No. Fining. As long as you are still willing to marry me, I can resign from office immediately and never enter the court again. He gazed at me pleadingly, his gaze so searing it seemed to burn right through me. I pushed against his chest, pushing him away. I don't need it. But he leaned in even closer. Your Highness. Please. Look at me again. With that, he leaned down and kissed me. I dodged in panic, broke free from his grip, and slapped him across the face. Insolence! Shen Que was jolted awake by the blow and abruptly let go. I'm sorry, Your Highness. I hurried out of the front hall and ordered sternly. Someone, throw him out. Since I drove Shen Que away last time, he had kept quiet for a while. In just 7 days, he regained his confidence and started wandering around in front of me again. His presence was always felt in the palace, on the streets, and in the temples. Moreover, he loved giving me gifts. Jade pendants, golden hairpins, and pastries were all made by his own hand. I was greatly annoyed, and even more annoying was that Pei Xian's war had dragged on for 3 full years without ending. He didn't come back for my birthday this year either. His Majesty was also unable to attend due to matters of state. I hurriedly made an appearance, and after receiving the gifts, I dismissed everyone. Shen Que was seeing off guests in the front courtyard, while I and bestow squatted in the back courtyard, staring blankly in a daze. Why has Pei Xian been gone for so long without returning? The battlefield is so dangerous. Could it be that? Bestow, let us go to the temple again tomorrow to pray for some safety charms. Your Highness. Shen Que stood behind me at some point, his eyes filled with displeasure yet helplessness. I've been running around helping you, yet you only think of him. I didn't ask you to help. I muttered under my breath. Can you really not give me another chance? Fei Ning. Bestow, I'm going to sleep now. Go see young Master Shen out. Shen Que. Late at night, I tossed and turned on my bed. There was a tap on the window lattice. I thought I was imagining it, so I turned over and paid no heed. The next second, there were 2 more tap-tap sounds by the window. I hurriedly lifted the curtain and saw Pei Xian standing in the courtyard, holding a glowing flower in his arms. I froze for a moment, then exclaimed in surprise. When did you get back? Is the war over? Why didn't you come in through the front door? What are you standing there for? Come in and sit down. I won't sit down. The war isn't over. I snuck back, and I have to leave in a moment. He handed me the flower glowing with a cold light from his embrace. The flower stem swayed, and fluorescence flowed across the petals, more beautiful than the moonlight. I finally managed to find such a tide moon epiphyllum. Is it beautiful? It is beautiful. I looked at him with a smile. Pei Xian gazed at me for a long while, gave a light cough, and averted his gaze. I knew you would like it. Fei Ning, happy birthday. Pei Xian's appearance the night before had been like a dream, but fortunately, the sea epiphyllum in the courtyard proved that it was not an illusion. Another 2 years passed. All of Sixth Sister's children have gone to school, yet I am still unmarried. Father is somewhat anxious. Fei Ning, the prince consort truly cannot hold office. If you and Shen Que continue to drag on like this, I will not yield either. Who is dragging on with him? I tapped the table irritably. Wasn't it said that the battle report from the border would arrive today? Why isn't it here yet? It is only the hour of C. There are still 2 hours until the hour of Wei. Finally, it was the hour of Wei when the battle report was presented. Pei Xian led 100,000 troops to launch a surprise attack on northernly half a month ago, recapturing Rome City, but he sustained severe injuries. Seeing the 4 words seriously injured and unconscious in the letter, I felt a sudden wave of dizziness. Regaining my composure, I rushed back to the Princess Manor to pack my things and headed straight for Jingzhou. I couldn't sleep well on the road. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Pei Xian lying on the bed, his face pale and his breathing faint, as if he would fall asleep at any moment. I stayed up until my eyes were red, praying all day that nothing would happen to him. Half a month later, the carriage arrived in Jingzhou. Just as Bestow handed the token to the guard at the gate of the general's manor, Pei Xian walked out from a corner down the street. Your Highness? What are you doing here? I examined him carefully. Aside from looking rather pale, there were no major issues, and I couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. I was just passing by. The sword strike Pei Xian took was very dangerous, piercing through his abdomen from behind. Fortunately, he is physically strong. Otherwise, he might not have made it through. I peeked around the screen while the doctor was changing his dressing. The wound had already scabbed over and was healing nicely. Pei Xian caught my gaze and smiled. If you want to see, come inside and look. I quickly pulled my head back and retorted. Who wants to look? After the physician finished changing the dressing and left, only he and I remained in the room. Pei Xian leaned halfway against the table, watching me, his eyes shining brightly. Your Highness came because you were worried about me, didn't you? Who's worried about you? I heard you were about to die, so I came to collect your corpse. But with your Highness's current status, you cannot yet collect my body and lead my funeral procession. Bah, bah, bah. Say less of that. He let out a soft laugh, his fingertips grazing the back of my hand as if by accident, yet not quite settling. General Pei and Madame Pei returned to the residence. After exchanging a few words with me, they had me stay at the General's manor. I did not refuse, planning to return to Kyoto after resting for a month. During this month, Pei Xian was by my side almost constantly. Quite a few colleagues and subordinates came to visit him during this time, but their gazes always fell on me. They would wink and make faces behind my back, wearing expressions that said, "The young general is truly impressive. He even managed to win the princess over." Pei Xian let them carry on as they pleased. In the blink of an eye, the day of my return to the capital arrived. Before I left, Pei Xian came to see me off. Pei Xian. I interrupted him. Are you willing to wait for me? What? Wait until my 25th birthday. Whatever you say then, I will agree. He stared at me for a long moment, then suddenly gave a low chuckle. Your Highness, don't try to renege when the time comes. I raised my hand. Heaven above! I swear on my life. Pei Xian clamped a hand over my mouth. All right, I believe you won't renege. Go on now. I'll just wait for you. You've waited 5 years. It's nothing for me to wait another 5. Upon returning to Kyoto, as expected, His Majesty flew into a rage and confined me to the residence for 3 months as punishment. Shen Que was also waiting early at the princess's manor, ready to call me to account. I ignored him. He angrily smashed a vase and began to sulk on his own. During his confinement, Shen Que came to see me every day, occasionally bringing along some curious little trinkets. I wasn't very interested, as I was busy figuring out how to fill the courtyard with Shimun epiphyllums. One day, Shen Que came to me drunk, asking over and over again, "Fining, what exactly must I do for you to look at me? Will you tell me, please? Didn't you choose me back then? How can you just say you don't want me anymore? I really haven't fallen for anyone else. Fining, I love you. Please love me again, okay?" For Shen Que, my feelings for him changed in just a few short months. But actually, a decade from our past life still stands between us. He had many chances to say he loved me, but he didn't. Whether he loved me or not doesn't matter anymore. The past is like the wind. Let us bury old dreams in the dust. In the blink of an eye, I will be 25 this year. In my past life, it was in June of this year that I fell into a lake and drowned. To prevent the accident from recurring, I have avoided places with water since the beginning of the year. Bestow entered the room holding a letter. Your Highness, General Pei's letter has arrived. Bring it here, quick! Pei Xian's writing style was just as cheeky as the man himself. The first 2 sentences reported his safety and mentioned recent events. Then he added that he was coming back and would strive to arrive before my birthday. At the end, he wrote in the letter, Your Highness, you can't run away. I gave a cold sneer. He spoke as if anyone were going to run away. Just as in my past life. In early March I suddenly coughed up blood and fell into a coma. No matter how the imperial physicians applied needles and fed me medicine, it was of no avail. My father was furious and ordered the imperial physicians to revive me within 3 days, or their heads would roll. On the 7th day of the 3rd month, the director of the Imperial Medical Office found an obscure prescription that required human blood as a catalyst. Shen Que slashed his wrist to draw blood without hesitation. 7 days later, I slowly opened my eyes and looked over, meeting a pair of gentle eyes. Fining. His voice was hoarse, his eyes shining with the light of finding something lost. My gaze fell on his wrist wrapped in gauze. Thank you. How shall you thank me? Only by doing this are you willing to say one more word to me. I will naturally remember young Master Shen's kindness and find a chance to repay it. Shen Que, the medicine is ready. I'll go bring it. After recovering from my illness, I immediately moved back to the Imperial Palace, intending to borrow the true dragon chi from my father to survive my tribulation. On the last day of June, I shut myself inside Fian Palace and refused to come out. At mid-afternoon, I suddenly heard someone pounding on the palace gates and shouting loudly, "Young Master Gu has fallen into the water. Someone come quickly." Young Master Gu is sixth sister's child. She has always been at odds with me, so I had no intention of getting involved. But somehow, by the time I came to my senses, I was already immersed in the lake. I pushed young Master Gu ashore, while I, exhausted of strength, slowly sank toward the bottom of the lake. Princess! Someone help! The princess hasn't come up yet. Unable to hold my breath any longer, I couldn't help but let out a soft cough. Water surged madly into my nasal cavity, burning with pain. My hands were powerless, and my whole body began to go numb. The deeper I fell, the darker everything became, and scenes from this life and the past flashed through my mind. Perhaps everything is fate, and I am destined to die after all. It was just hard on Pei Xian, making him wait for me in vain for so many years. My consciousness gradually drifted away, and my body grew increasingly cold. Suddenly, the sound of breaking water came from above, and someone swam toward me, bringing light. I slept for an entire day, waking up again at dusk the next day. Awake? How do you feel? Is there anywhere that hurts? Pei Xian nervously leaned over the bedside, his face full of lingering fear and worry. I shook my head gently. My throat just hurts a little. Is young Master Gu all right? What could possibly be wrong with him? He asked, extremely annoyed. It's you, you're already in poor health. Yet you tried to play the hero and save someone. If I hadn't arrived in time, you would have. He held my hand tightly. It's a good thing I came back early. He leaned down and pressed a kiss onto the back of my hand, as if I were a priceless treasure. Fining. I don't want to wait anymore. Some things still need to be made clear in advance. Pei Xian, after becoming the prince consort, you won't be able to go to the battlefield anymore. I'd be more than happy not to. Will General Pei and Madame Pei agree? My mother is also dying for me not to go. And General Pei? He listens to my mother. Bestow brought a bowl of tonic soup into the room, and Pei Xian took it from her, feeding me spoonful by spoonful as if caring for a young child. After feeding me, he set down the bowl and could not wait to ask Father Emperor to bestow the marriage. It is too late today. Let's talk about it tomorrow, I advised him. No, I cannot wait a moment longer. I am going to see His Majesty right now. What do you want with me? Father Emperor's voice sounded from outside the door. Pei Xian's eyes lit up, and he bent his knees to kneel. I have long admired the seventh princess, and I implore your majesty to grant me a marriage with the seventh princess. Father Emperor did not answer, but turned to look at me. Fining, are you willing? Pei Xian clearly knew I wouldn't refuse, yet he still stared at me nervously. I smiled faintly, and out of the corner of my eye, I caught sight of a tall figure in a plain white brocade robe standing outside the house. Shen Que seemed to know I was awake and had hurried over from outside the palace, the stray hair before his forehead somewhat disheveled by the wind. I have also admired General Pei for a long time, so naturally I am willing. Even happier than Pei Xian was undoubtedly Father Emperor. He dismissed everyone and patted my head. Fining is finally getting married. He looked as if he had been terrified by my spinsterhood. On the night before the wedding, Shen Que sneaked into the Princess Manor to see me. Do you really intend to marry him? Fining, we have known each other for years. Childhood sweethearts. Why does it have to be him in the end? Can you really not take another look at me? I was just about to ask Bestow to show him out, Pei Xian, who had also sneaked a peek at me, vaulted over the wall, his face dark. Lord Shen, may you be childless for the rest of your life for destroying a marriage. On the very first day Pei Xian moved into the princess's manor, he began drilling the guards. He said with a sneer, "From now on, we can't just let any stray dog into the princess's manor." I pursed my lips in exasperation. With you being so guarded now, why did you tell Shen Que that I wasn't interested in you before you left for Bianjing? He hemmed and hawed for a long while. I was afraid that after I left, no one would take care of you. I rolled my eyes. This princess has plenty of people taking care of me. In the first year of our marriage, I gave birth to a pair of dragon phoenix twins. On the day of their 100-day banquet, the household was bustling with activity. When I finally had a moment to rest, one of the children was being held in Shen Ke's arms, being soothed. Since General Pei cannot manage alone, why not? Before he could finish, he was cut off by Pei Xian's furious roar. Bullshit! Pei Xian snatched the child from his hands and glared at him warily. I could handle 10 more. Don't you get any funny ideas? Shen Que sneered. You're not worthy. He even wanted Fining to bear him 10 children. Perhaps in a couple of years, she would get tired of him. Shen Que thought viciously, a sour ache rising in his chest. Pei Xian was about to punch him in the face, but today wasn't the right time for a fight, so he held back. The next day, a sign was erected at the entrance of the princess's manor. Shen Que and dogs are not allowed in the residence. The story is now complete. Thank you all for your companionship. See you in the next one.